Well, welcome everyone. We are letting a lot of people who are in the waiting room into the presentation, so we'll begin in just a moment. We have a wonderful registration list today, and a lot of people actually here today rather than waiting just for the recording. So thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. So we'll get started in just a minute as more people join us.
Hi.
Hello.
Morning, Elizabeth.
Hello there.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. I think we've got about everybody in from currently in from the waiting room. So,
Hey, how's it going, guys?
hello everyone. Thank you so
Hello,
much for joining
hello.
us.
Happy to be here.
Great. Thank you.
Hello together.
Hello.
Welcome everyone. I would encourage people to, if they want, put your name in the chat and where you're from, so you all can connect with each other as well as getting our messages today. So, I'm in New York City. I don't know where the rest of you are, but it's sunny but cold. Other than that, it's a good day in New York City, like always for me. Well, I think we're going to get started. We've got just about everybody in from the room, the waiting room, and I'm sure people will keep joining us. But thank you to all of you for making time today for this webinar, and it's called Building the Framework for Small Business Success. And we've got a lot of things to share with everybody today. But I wanted to start off by asking everyone to mute so we can you know cover the material, and then we'll have time for a Q&A towards the end. And I also want to introduce you to Lana, who is kind of manning the chat there. And if you have questions you want to ask, or any suggestions, please put them there because she's going to be manning the chat box. And then when we get to the end during the Q&A part, she'll be taking questions either live, or from the chat. So I just wanted you to know about Lana, and Lana and I work very closely together in many respects. So today our topic is building this framework for small business success. And let me start by really kind of talking about the small business dilemma, which many of you maybe feel. But many small business owners and entrepreneurs are really caught between this idea of not having enough time and having to figure out, of all the things that need to get done, what should get done and what is really the best use of your time. And then you also have the issue of, while humans can be very helpful in scaling a business, humans are costly. And each human has a finite set of skills. And so it's this dilemma of, where do I spend money, and are the people I'm going to be working with, do they have the skills I need? And then, of course, there's this new wonderful tool called AI, but it's impersonal. And you really have to know how to use it to get the most out of it. So this often results in the fact that you can kind of get stalemated, miss opportunities. Perhaps you have inconsistent services, that the quality of services you're delivering to your market, and you really have a hard time building that momentum because you're always struggling in this dilemma area rather than having a clear path for moving forward. And that often leads, frankly, to burnout for small business owners because they're really trying to get it all done. And so we're really going to talk about this problem today. And the reason I'm particularly interested in small businesses, and my idea of small business isn't necessarily the SMB that everybody refers to, because there's some very large businesses that are included in that SMB definition. I'm really interested in micro businesses, solopreneurs, small business owners, and you can see that it's a huge portion of businesses in the United States. 99.9% of the businesses in the United States are micro businesses. And the average revenue is small. And that concerns me because I want small businesses to be really successful and really earn more than the averages. And the numbers that you see on the screen there, $50,000 for a solopreneur, and 1 to 4 small employers with employees of 1 to 4, 400,000, 5 to 9 employees, just under 1 million, 10 to 19, just under 2 million. I think if you're talking about 99.9% of the businesses, we want these businesses to grow and be more successful, to contribute to, the owner's family, the community, the state, the business, the country. I think that everyone's invested in the success of these micro businesses, and that's really the area of my focus in how to help those businesses scale. So let me move forward and tell you a little bit about me. And my whole purpose really is empowering the purpose of small businesses to scale. And I got into this after decades of running Fortune 500 businesses in the commercial insurance industry. I did this for a number of decades and joined my first startup in 2002. That startup didn't succeed, but I learned a lot, including that I didn't want to go back to work for a large corporation. I was really interested in working with entrepreneurs and smaller businesses. So I became an entrepreneur myself, as well as an angel investor. So I've seen small businesses and how they can grow and scale from a number of different angles, including myself. Every single day, I live the same journey that you all are in. And so, what kind of inspired me to launch my business today is that I really have 2 decades of experience hiring freelancers to scale my businesses. And so what I really zoned in on is what made me successful in hiring freelancers to scale my business, and what were the problems or the roadblocks, for other people's to do the same. So that led me to start Results Resourcing. And what we really are is a fractional talent platform. We are matchmakers, really, helping small businesses find and hire fractional talent. And so we do both contract staffing, and we're a technology hybrid. So we use technology so we're more efficient in serving our target client. Not that we really make anybody else use the technology, because not everybody is on an equal platform from a technology standpoint, but we want to use technology to help us make better matches. So that's just kind of an introduction to me and really why I got excited about helping small businesses scale. And so what I really want to do today is share some of the lessons that I've learned, in helping businesses to scale. And if my slides will advance, we will keep moving. Hang on. There we go. All right. So basically, what I built was a platform that is the best of both worlds. We are technology, but we are also humans. Because at the end of the day, I found that that's what made the difference. There's tons of technology platforms out there for hiring freelancers, but you can't talk to anybody. And I really find that having a conversation about what is standing in the way from today in business success leads to better matches. And so that's really what I chose to work on. And at the end of the day, our end result is that we help business owners build delegation engines. And that's really the secret to small business scaling success, and really what we'll be talking about today, and how you can build your own delegation engines. What are the key components to doing that? So this is really the topic of conversation today. These are kind of the key points that I've learned can really be the way to move forward for you. Thinking bigger, the value of time, thinking about AI and humans as a hybrid model versus one or the other. I'll be introducing something to you called the PTP method, or process, tools, then people, and then really accessing virtual assistants. So let me talk about the first really important thing, which is stepping into the CEO role. Because if you do one thing, that's really probably the most important thing, because it puts you in the proper frame of mind. And I know this is a really trite expression, working on your business, not in the business, but it's really true. Because if you step back and don't get involved in the tasks and think more about how do I advance my business, I think it's going to start you in the proper perspective about how you should prioritize work. And really, it's all about scaling you so you have the impact that you want. And it starts by stepping into that CEO role. And the thing I always talk about is that time is your most valuable asset, but it's one that we don't think about. And I would encourage you to thinking about time in two ways. Are you investing your time? And that is really taking time to do the work that is going to generate revenue for you and deliver value, ongoing value to the market and the community that you want to serve. Or are you spending time, which is doing the tasks you need to do to run the business? And what I find is many people use those two terms interchangeably, but I would challenge you to think about them as very discrete things. Investment, which is helping you move your business forward and has enduring value, especially to your clients, or the task work that you've got to do, but isn't really delivering value. So one of the first things I did was I built this cool little tool that I call the value of time calculator. But you can do a kind of back a napkin exercise. So I encourage you to take a scrap paper out and do this now. But how much is an hour of your time worth? And there's no real definition to what that worth is, but is it worth $5 or is it worth $200? Then secondly, how many hours a week do you work? And if you multiply the two, it's a really simple calculation to say that's the value of the time that you do work each week. And if you want to actually take our little calculator, here's the QR code so you can access it. Because what I'm going to do next is share of all the people that have taken this survey, this is the result. No one ever says that their worth is $10 an hour. In fact, the average of all the people that have taken the survey is 166. And the number of hours per week that all of the survey takers have worked is 58. But this is really the interesting stuff down below. So the work that generates value, revenue for clients is only 25 hours of the week or 43%. So if you do the math and 25 hours times 166, that is really the fact that you're spending or investing $4,000 a week in generating value on your business. On the non-revenue generating work, which is a cost, that's unfortunately it's the majority of time people spend. And that is truly spending time on tasks that aren't necessarily delivering value. And so to me, the equation is how do you move more hours from the that you're spending on tasks into the revenue generating value added hours. And that's really the key because if you even shift a couple of hours a week into revenue generating activities, that's going to really advance your business. So that's really opportunity cost. If you think about the work that you're spending down in this non-generating work, that non-value generating work. That's really the key. And it's making that balance between opportunity cost and shifting your time into revenue generating work is really the value. And frankly, that helps you pay for different tools you might consider to help you do that. So let's talk more about scaling businesses. And one of the hang on, having a little trouble with my advancing the slides today. Sorry about that. Um, so the problem is the menu bar is at the top. So all right, here we go. Now I've got it cleared. So basically my philosophy is that DIY or doing it yourself isn't scalable. And so the key is figuring out what are the pros and cons. The pros to DIY, and this is why people often choose to do it, is it's easy. It's quick to start. You have control over the work that's being done and how it's being done. And if at first it's very cost effective, it's a way to learn, experiment, try things out, and figure out what's going to work for your clients. But there's a lot of cons. It's time consuming. And, the time that you spend doing work this way, is an opportunity cost. I'm so sorry. This menu bar is really causing a trouble. Let me see if I can't just get rid of it altogether. There we go. All right. All right. So the pros I talked about, but let's talk about the cons. The cons are time is time consuming, and frankly, there's a lack of functional expertise. You may be good at doing a spreadsheet, but are you really good at bookkeeping? That's just another whole area of expertise. And there's a lot of things like that, whether it's social media or lead generation, those are all areas with very discrete areas of expertise. And at some point, your ability to do those things you know, is there's a reduce in your functional expertise. And all of that also leads to burnout and bottleneck risk because at the end of the day, you get exhausted doing this work that you're trying to figure out how to do it as well as to do it. And so while DIY is a great starting point, it's not always ultimately the best use of your time for your business. So approach number one, most people think, is to hire human beings, and that certainly is a great option. But there's pros and cons, whether you're hiring full-time or you're choosing traditional outsourcing. So comparing the pros of full-time versus traditional outsourcing, both have a lot of very strong points. When you're hiring a full-time person, you know their expertise. It's easier to delegate because you're working with them regularly. They understand your brand, your product, your solution, whatever it is that you're offering to the market. Traditional outsourcing, which is delegating to temps or getting an intern or hiring a freelancer, that has a lot of pros too, because you can hire people who are seasoned, scalable, they're flexible, they can go up and down with you, they have expertise. It really can be a flexible solution to bringing talent into your organization. But both, unfortunately, have cons too. So it's always that balancing act. If you hire full time, you're you're choosing a fixed cost. You're making a commitment to a salary, perhaps benefits. There's legal requirements. So there's it kind of steers a lot of people, especially if you're a smaller business, away from making that full-time commitment because there's risk there. And then you have to manage people. I mean, you have to manage people whether you're outsourcing or you're hiring, but again, the standard is higher, if you've actually made a full-time hire. From a traditional outsourcing perspective, again, going back to temps or freelancers, they often have higher hourly rates. But at the end of the day, when you look at the focus time they spend on something versus the fixed costs of hiring a full-time person, it often can be a better, more economical solution. But really important is when you're outsourcing, you have to have scope and process clarity. That's important with a full-time hire too, but there's more flex with a full-time hire. But to get the maximum out of traditional outsourcing, you really have to have scope and process clarity. There's communication hurdles, and sometimes they have more than one engagement. And so they have split focus. So you have to be able to focus them on the work that you need done. The second approach, which is really popular these days, is considering AI. And I am a huge favor of AI. AI is available 24 by 7. It's cost effective. It can allow you to access an enormous amount of data out in the world very cost effectively, that rather than the old days when you're doing the research on your own, using Google or whatever. But there's a lot of cons too. If there's a lack of judgment and creativity, and if everybody uses the same prompt, everyone's going to get the same answer. So it will be impersonal, and it perhaps won't have the context of your particular business. And then nobody really talks about this, but at the end of the day, if you use a lot of different AI apps, they need to be integrated for them to talk to each other and for you to get the optimum performance out of AI. So that's just a consideration. Instead of having a lot of siloed apps, is think of how they can work together. And of course, a lot of people know about the data privacy issues and intellectual property issues and being careful that you don't share your intellectual property out into the market. So my idea really is that the solution is to use both. It's a hybrid approach because that's what's going to offer a scalable approach with efficiency, but still the human touch. So that's really what I'm going to be talking about for the rest of the conversation today. And this slide is a little busy, so you may just want to take a screenshot. But what I'm trying to do here is just illustrate when I would use a human versus AI, and how to think about that. And so really, these are all things that really help you think about how to delegate to each of these human or AI tools and really to get the most, out of these different vehicles. So to me, I'd like to talk a little bit about digital versus virtual assistants because that previous slide really talked about the blending of both. And in the past, there was something called a human virtual assistant, and no one thought twice about it. And I really think broadly about human virtual assistants and visual is really it's a professional service. Is how do you outsource the back office to people who are really proficient at doing that work? And in the old days, um, human virtual assistants really were at the low end of the scale looking at tasks, clerical, data entry, routine workflows, templates, and scripts. Those were all perfect things for human virtual assistants to do. At the opposite end of the spectrum are really outcomes-oriented work. Things that humans are great at. If it's critical thinking, understanding the nuance and the context, asking that second level question, requiring creativity being accountable. And the other thing about humans, if you get the right ones, they're very self-motivated, it's very accountable. And it's really thinking about the range of tasks in that way. But now there's this thing called digital AI or digital virtual assistants. And in fact, if you ask AI to tell you about virtual assistants, that's what they're going to talk about. Digital AI virtual assistants, not humans. But I really think as AI is able to do more and more, it's taking over the task end of things. It's going to be able to do more and more of the things that were traditionally outcomes oriented in the human VA arena. But to me, the answer is really digital virtual assistants plus human virtual assistants, because these are the things that humans bring to the table. They can build off the fact base of AI to make sure the facts are right and that the prompts that generated the information were the correct prompts for the information you wanted. Humans can do a reasonableness test. Does that make sense? Does the answer make sense for what I'm trying to problem solve? And really, they can help you optimize what you get out of AI. So, in addition to really making sure that the AI production reflects the human brain voice, that's so important. So that's just a kind of a sense of what's happening with AI, digital, and human virtual assistants. And this leads me into really building your delegation engine, which is a combination, frankly, of human and tools. But to me, it all starts with process because how you deliver customer value is a business asset and it's a process. What are the key things you do every day to deliver value to your clients? Well, you follow some sort of a process, whether you've written it down or not. And building a repeatable process is one of the first things you can do to delegate. You're delegating to process by writing it down, and it helps you deliver value consistently, helps you get more done well, and it enables delegation and outsourcing. And what I'll talk about in a second is there's more than one way to outsource as well. But a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm not a process person. Well, and that's quite all right because you can ask AI actually to build you a process, or you can ask a human to build you a process. But I guarantee you there is an AI-enabled freelancer that can help you build the process. And starting with a few core processes, the ones that are key to your business development, is where to start, rather than thinking about having to document all of the process of the business that you run. Next is using tools, technology and tools. And the key is to fit technologies and tools into your process. A lot of people buy tools because it's the latest or the greatest, or somebody said, use this, use that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it fits your business. So I think it's important to do process first, then tools, because tools will save you time and money and help you offload the repetitive tasks that are part of your process. And this all helps you lower costs, capture data, and helps you embrace AI. So to me, build your process first, then pick the tools that help you move your process forward. That's really the key to success. And if you're not a tech person, and many people aren't, plus their technology changes so quickly that it's hard to keep up. But there are people that specialize in that. And so again, an AI-enabled freelance pro will help you sort through your technology and tool options to pick the ones that fit your process and then help you really optimize the technology to optimize your process. And so the last part of your delegation engine is people. So it's process, tools, then people, which really leads you to being able to scale your value delivery. And so to me, this order is important. And when you get to the people part, people are the most expensive, the hardest to find, and ones you have to build relationships with to really optimize performance. So people can be employees, They can be your network or business partner, or they can be freelancers and contract professionals. Those are all people that should be part of your network and really helping you to scale your value delivery, starting with process tools, then people, and really leveraging the minds of people is really where you get the creative and critical thinking and the best result of people. And so, as I've come to learn in the 12 years I've been hiring freelancers, is honestly, there is an AI-enabled freelance pro for just about anything that you want to do. The secret is being able to find that person because there's so many people out there that do creative things. So when you're thinking about your core work versus your non-core work, and that's really when we talk about your process, what should your first processes be that you document? It's really the core work that your client pays you for. That's the stuff that really you should be investing your time in. Because that's, if you will, your front office. That's what you interface with your client there. The non-core work is the work your client doesn't pay you for, but still expects you to do because they want you to have an effective back office. If non-core work's not done right, it can be frustrating to the client, but it's important to have both work well. But again, what should you be doing? To me, outsourcing non-core work that requires expertise but doesn't necessarily mean your time or expertise, that's the place to look when you're thinking about outsourcing to skilled AI-enabled pros. And again, they can be tools or they can be people. And so there's kind of three elements to consider. So if you think about time, there's three things. It's finite, so there's only a limited jar of time. And then you can have core work, which I'm representing by these funny looking rocks, these big rocks. And then down here, this is sand, everything else. And that's deliberately showing it that way. So if we think about it, if you start with the general work that has to be done, you do that first, then your jar, which reflects finite time, can only fit so many core high priorities. Instead, to think about, again, invest your time in the really important work, the core priorities you have, and then fitting in the sand or the non-core tasks around that. And you can get more into your jar. And so here's a way to kind of think about what should you do and what should you delegate. Again, the core work is what your customer values, what generates revenue, profit, impact. And the stuff you maybe should do that is maybe a rock, maybe it's sand, but if you love to do it and enjoy it, then there's nothing wrong with that. That's a choice that you're making in terms of investing or spending your time. And if you're good at it, go for it. But the stuff that you should always think about delegating is anything that's backroom, it requires skill and expertise that perhaps you don't have, and certainly anything you don't like to do or you aren't good at. And I really look at that as a negative. That's going to cost you money. Not only it's going to cost money to outsource, but it's costing you opportunity that you could be spending by doing your core work and maybe the stuff you love that gives you a lot of pleasure. So that's really how to think about what to do and delegate. And then what I thought I'd do here is just show you really quickly what are some examples of core versus non-core activities. And the core work are all obvious things that are going to drive a business forward in terms of strategy, partnerships, working with clients, those sorts of things. And the non-core work is just a constant list of things that you're probably all doing to one extent or another. And depending on your business, some things that are on the non-core list might actually be core. Like one of the things that comes to mind is if you have a business all around helping people optimize CRM management, and then maybe that's a core role for you. Or if you're a digital agency, maybe marketing and social media execution is a core role for you, but still your own core social media execution may be something you can outsource to a virtual assistant or somebody or to tools, those sorts of things. So it's important to think about how these different tasks reflect on your business. So obviously what is core and non-core is going to vary depending on your industry. But this is just to get you thinking about what this could mean in terms of your business. And so at the end of the day, it's always that balancing act that I was talking about. The cost, finite time, the fact that there's so many options, it can be overwhelming, and how do you decide between human versus AI? And then you're always looking for skills excellent responsiveness, culture, and it's always balancing those two, and it's never going to be perfect. But that's really what you're choosing to do is find the optimum use of time and capital. And I'm a big advocate of using freelancers and freelance assistant because it's a way to offload non-core work. You can really scale up and down because freelancers are flexible. You're not locking into a schedule or a fixed cost necessarily, depending on the freelance model you work with. You can add results-oriented talent because these people are paid for performance, not they're not salaried. You can add broad thinking and experience because they're going to come from different industries and bring thinking. They applied something for one client, and how could they apply it to you? They're not recreating the wheel each time. And obviously, you know, it's important to have confidentiality agreements and things like that in place. But for the most part, freelancers understand their value is implying what they learn in other places, but protecting important private information. You can add AI and technology utilization skills that you might not have. And given the constant advancement of technology, it's hard to keep up. But people that do this for a living, that's what they're paid to do is be on the top of their game, no matter what AI or technology tool you're talking about. And lastly, I think that working with freelancers is a great way to learn to outsource and delegate. They know how to help you and figure out what to do and how to do it and how to build processes, but it also is a way to practice because you can just delegate a little at a time. You don't have to delegate everything all at once. You can start small and build your own skills in terms of delegating and outsourcing. And so I think there's just a lot of really powerful reasons to think about using virtual assistants to optimize time and capital. So here's just one quick little example of a fairly common kind of client that we work with every day, where the client really was trying to scale but feels overwhelmed. Too much to do, time and budget constraints, too many options. And frankly, that caused the business to plateau and a bit of a stalemate because it was difficult to make decisions. And so what this CEO was looking for is she wanted to resume business momentum where the business was had a flywheel going and it wasn't that she was having to push every single day for the business to move forward. And she wanted a clear path to success. She didn't want it to be luck. She wanted it to be something that she could build into her business foundation for the future. And here's what happened. The outcome really was that she was able to gain business momentum back. She was able to establish a clear path to success. And because she hired freelancers who could use, if could you put the mute on, please, Lana? Um, she did have more time for core initiatives. In fact, she doubled her revenue over a period of time, and that really enabled her to cover the cost of a virtual assistant, plus some new AI tools that she chose. So back to the investing versus spending of time, she shifted hours to generating revenue away from non-core activities that were sapping her energy by hiring the right people. So these were the key roles that the hybrid team was able to perform for her. She helped to systemize operations, took care of a lot of administrative things, helped her start to build a consistent way to generate leads and to make outreach to them through email systems, newsletters, things like that. Took care of invoicing and bookkeeping, because she was doing a lot of manual invoicing before this happened. And then really helping her build a systematic approach to marketing with an editorial calendar, helping her with content creation. And that's where AI was deployed a lot in terms of learning that the brand voice for this client, but also bringing in the human voice of brand and tailoring it to her tone afterwards. And these just all were roles that kind of rolled together. She didn't do them all at once. She did one at a time, but over a period of 6 to 8 months, really started to delegate in all these areas, shifting what was most important at any given point in time to really gain that business momentum and a clear path to success and pay for the cost of a virtual assistant and the AI tools that she used. So it was a real success story and one that we've seen in a number of occasions, different industries and in different situations, but it's a pretty consistent success story. So let me talk just briefly about how results resourcing can help, because all these stories and all these learnings that I've shared today are things that I've learned by watching and working with business owners in the past ten years or so. And as I've mentioned, how do you find the right freelance pros that are right for your business? Well, it's not easy because there's 77 million freelancers as of 2024 in the US and 1.6 billion freelancers globally. And there's so many options of hiring freelancers through platforms or networks, here in the United States or anywhere in the world. But a lot of people do DIY, and if that works for you, it's great. Although think about the time you're spending at something you're not necessarily great at. But if you've got good networks and you are good at online platforms, it can be a good source of freelance talent for you. Another option are services like we offer. We're contract specialists. You do pay for our service, but we're really experienced at it and we know what we're doing. And so at the end of the day, I view DIY as low IRI because again, your time could be better used in optimizing the work you do with clients, and delivering value to the market. And I think that while it does have a cost, hiring people who are specialists at helping you find freelance talents can be high ROI, and we are paid for results as well. And so there can be a high return there as well. So basically, what we do, as I mentioned before, we're humans and technology, and I think at the end of the day, we're the best of both worlds. We are a fully automated proprietary technology platform that we use to make ourselves efficient and make great matches, but we don't require you to use it. We use it to help you because we put at your disposal our human talent experts that help you understand your needs and find the right resources for you. So with us, you talk to a human, you have and the humans help you assess the work that you need to outsource and prioritize it. We provide access to skilled, scalable talent, and it's cost effective and very quick. So our goal really is to be matchmakers, and we match you to pre-vetted freelance professionals. And what's interesting about us is we are focused on US and Canadian based talent. There are super smart people all over the world that speak and write English well, but there is also something to being really knowledgeable, having grown up in the culture of a country and understand the business practices firsthand. Be freelancers here in the United States or Canada provides on the ground in the same boots as the client experiences, and they're all very AI skilled. We also focus on teams. And while initially, when I started the business, we would match people with individuals, I really found at the end of the day that teams were more powerful because so many small businesses need one thing when they come to us, but once that problem is solved or that opportunity is optimized, they need something else. And so rather than having to hunt for another freelancer, if they can have more than one skilled individual from the same team, then it really reduces the onboarding and the effort it takes to find that next qualified person. So it's really a way to get people that understand your business without having to constantly onboard and look for people. And the team can really provide skill breadth and depth because the bookkeeper on the team doesn't have to be the SEO expert, for example. So you get people that are skilled in their respective areas of expertise, all under the same team umbrella. We also don't charge any minimums, no retainers, and a team, once you've met the team, can be up and running for you in 24 to 48 hours. So, like I said, we want to be fast, flexible, and effective for you. These are our most popular roles. They're all focused on outsourcing the back office. So, while you can get a team that can do all of these things, we really try to focus in on your primary need and get you the right job and the right team that's going to help you get the result you need. And we're all about results resourcing, which is why we call the company that. We want to resource your results, so satisfaction guaranteed. So lastly, just to recap, I really think that you can deliver more if you think about building a delegation engine. And that delegation engine starts with process, includes tools and people, not all three together. But I think when you're going to build your delegation engine, you have to start by thinking bigger about your role and how are you investing your time and how do you really think about scaling the business the way you want the business to be rather than getting more tasks done. How do you build the business that will help you maximize your impact? And I think the key there is finding expertise that's human, but also knows how to leverage AI because AI can be your friend, can be a really powerful tool for you that helps level the playing field for a small business. But it's important to understand how to use it, how to leverage it, and how to optimize it rather than using standalone tools. And then I really believe that harnessing the power of virtual assistants is a phenomenal way to grow a business because you can get high level expertise when you need it, where you need it, without having to make full-time commitments and making full-time commitments only when they're really helping you deliver the core work of your firm that's delivering value to the market. So it's a way to scale and compete with bigger players between AI and virtual assistants so you can really scale your team to deliver more. And then really, I think it's ultimately down to executing using the process tools, people method, because I think at the end of the day, that's going to build a scalable company, which is what everyone wants. Because it's whether you're scaling to exit or scaling just to have an impact on your clients, um, doing more with less effort is always something that everyone wants to do. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. I apologize for some of my screen sharing problems in the beginning of the talk. I'd like to invite, any and all of you to join me for a free jumpstart session to talk more about what I've talked about and how it applies to your business. And here's a QR code to schedule that quick meeting with me if you'd like. And then after this webinar is over, we're going to do a Q&A session now. So Lana will get any questions together and we'll talk about that in a second. But because you attended or you registered, you will get this replay. And with it will come a worksheet that we developed that kind of goes through the topics that we've talked about in the workshop. And you'll be able to do the worksheet, but while listening to the replay again, or maybe you'll just remember and the worksheet will be sufficient. But we wanted to give you a tool that will help you apply what we've talked about today. So with that, Lana, I'm happy to take any questions that people have.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. There's lots of thank yous in the comments.
Oh, great.
Hey, very great crowd. Thank you for the session. We have a question about brand knowledge. How do your teams know like what is brand knowledge and how do they get to know the client?
That's a great question because frankly, a lot of people, that's one of the first things they start thinking about outsourcing is marketing, social media, that kind of thing. So what we always do is try to start where the client is and use the materials that they've already developed and really, look at their website, look at the content that's being shared, understand that brand voice from that. And if the brand voice, uh, if the client wants the brand voice to shift, we talk about what that shift needs to be for their market. So we're really starting with wherever the client is on that. And then there's a lot of different ways to do it, but increasingly, what the VA teams will do is they have private AI tools, and so they might share articles that were written or a website or social media posts, to AI to learn the brand voice and to get inspiration, frankly, for ways that we could improve that sort of thing. And it's all about using AI properly, the proper prompts, and uploading that information in a secure, private way, and really taking the output of that and coming back to the client with recommendations based on what they were looking to accomplish. Changes or shifts in their brand voice or different marketing techniques or directions to different channels. It's all going to be customized to what the client was looking for. But that would probably be the way people that we would start with helping a client with brand voice, and then what would be the marketing and social media strategies that would evolve from that.
Thank you. Is there an AI app that you can recommend?
You know, not really. And the reason I say not really is because there are so many from ChatGPT to Claude and there's different levels of these AI apps that you can purchase. They all have free versions, but then you can buy a private one, or you can buy one that has deeper research options. And so really it kind of depends on what you're looking for. But I mean, honestly, you could pick anyone like ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, prompt it to tell you what are the best ones out there today for the application that I want to use. So to me, using these tools, it's all about the prompt. It's the old garbage in, garbage out. If you don't ask the question in the right way, you're not going to get the right answer. But that would be a perfect way to start because it's going to come back to you with these are the top AI apps, and here's what they're best at. And depending on what you're trying to do, I would recommend this one or that one. It's just gonna output that to you. Then you can decide. But it would be a great way to start. I mean, I do often do that when I'm not sure where to start. I start with ChatGPT, but it's because it's easy. But I'm not married to it by any means. And so I think you can use ChatGPT to help you figure out which app is the best one for you to start with. And to try more than one because you could type the same prompt in and you might get different answers from the different AI apps.
Thank you. What protections are there when working with freelancers so they protect individual business IP and information?
That always comes up when we're talking with people, and I'm going to say that the most important thing is finding freelancers that are trustworthy. And that's kind of a human thing, a human sensibility by doing proper curation and I guess investigating and underwriting of the person that you're going to hire. So I think it's kind of a squishy thing, but I think that's probably key. And then you can also do things like have non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreements, things like that executed, with your freelancer. And a lot of platforms, including results resourcing, have some of those components built into user agreements. But at the end of the day, um, you just have to be careful. I mean, even if you have an employee, there's no guarantee that employee is going to take all the steps necessary. They might go work at Starbucks in an unprotected environment. And so there's any number of ways that, there could be personal private information that is subject to the public. And so I think it's important to start with trust again, because people are going to, if you find people that you trust, you can count on them to approach work the way you would want them to do it. So I think that there's no surefire way to protect in today's world. So I think you need to, be careful about who you hire and establishing the ground rules for how you want them to do work for you and what environments you want them to do work and any protections that you expect. And just be very clear about those things. And then I generally encourage people to start small with whatever freelance resources that they choose. Start with low risk activities, things that you're not worried about your IP, and that builds confidence and trust, and it's affordable. So there's a lot of ways to kind of ease into it to the point where you become comfortable with the people that you're working with.
Thank you. This question was regarding the presentation. You mentioned flywheel, social media flywheel. Do you want to
It's
tell us
not,
more?
no, it's not a social media. It's not a flywheel. It's a concept.
Mm,
That a flywheel is like, um, well, if you think about like the track that a gerbil runs on, you know, that it's dependent on the gerbil running to get it to turn. So a flywheel is really just more that there's momentum points that are driving the flywheel forward. So it's not an app, it's just more of a concept about momentum, really.
thank you. When you look at the most successful small business clients, what specific processes did they document first that created the biggest leverage for growth?
So it really depends on the business. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before is there's probably 1,000 processes that each of you performs to run your business, from logging onto your computer to, checking your bank balance or whatever it might be. And the key really is picking the ones that are most crucial to you delivering value and generating revenue. And there may be five. There may be three. And it's really of all the things that you do every day to satisfy a client, to produce value, to gain a client, those are the processes that you should start with. And it should just be a handful until you kind of get the hang of it. And so start there. So whatever kind of business that you have, if you're a contractor and you're doing work with if you literally construction contractor, maybe it's about, proposal process, or hiring your subcontractors, to someone that's a digital agency, it might be something else. So it's really thinking about your business and what are the two or three key things that are central to your business, and that's where you should start.
Perfect. Thank you. For a very small business team, I want to look like we are bigger than we actually are. Do you suggest that I start with hiring a virtual assistant?
I do. I mean, I think that if you're a very small team and you've got a bunch of things that are keeping you from doing your core work, that's all work that can be outsourced to a virtual assistant. And depending on your business, the broader the skills of a virtual assistant, the better, because that person can't is part of your team. I mean, even if they're not a full-time employee, it says to me a definition of a team is the group of people that work with you to execute your business vision. And it's not a matter of whether a W-2 or a 1099. It's that business relationship you have with them and that you have the same alignment of what you're trying to accomplish on the clients that you're working on together. So even if the VA is simply in the background as opposed to having any client-facing role, that person is still part of your team and it's enabling you to be bigger because you can do more and spend more of your time working with clients or getting new clients. So that is definitely a great place to start.
Thank you. What are the most common mistake owners make when they first try to hire a virtual assistant?
I think the common mistake is that people wait too long because they think they can't afford it when they're not really thinking about that investing time versus spending time. And I understand how people feel about thinking about, you know, uh, setting aside money, which is always in short supply, to hire somebody to help. But I think they wait too long and then they're expecting too much, right from the get-go. And I think a more measured approach is really the way to succeed. So, if you try to outsource 15 things on day one to someone you're first starting to work with, and you haven't built a foundation of trust and you haven't built a common understanding of process, you're not necessarily aligned yet in terms of brand voice and things like that, you've waited too long and you're trying to do too much, and then you get frustrated because it doesn't work the way you expect it to. I mean, at the end of the day, human beings just take time to get to know each other. And it's important for you and the freelancer to both like each other, ideally, and enjoy working together and build a working relationship. And so I think getting started sooner small, doing a few little things to build that relationship and work up to more. And that's really the secret to success. And so by waiting too long and trying to do too much right off the bat because you feel like you're behind, that is probably it's very understandable, but that to me is where people where that's the difficult thing. That's the thing to avoid if you can.
Thank you. Oh, we have a couple more questions coming in. If I'm starting a business today, I've registered it and I'm ready, what are my next steps?
I'm not sure I can answer that question because I don't know about, I mean, if you started a business and you registered it today, you might be in the DIY mode. You might be having to maybe if you have some clients already, maybe you're thinking about, okay, how did I get that client? Did I do a proposal? Um, any number of things like that. And you're kind of building as you go. I mean, you could certainly hire someone to help you, but you might learn more by listening to your clients and building some of your processes yourself in the beginning. But you also might you could hire a VA to help you get an accounting system set up, or help you work on your website, So there's a number of things that freelancers could help you with right away. But I think the specifics, I'd be happy to talk to you more individually. I might be able to give you a better answer. But for me, I mean, I started results resourcing from scratch myself. And in the early days, I did a lot myself because I had to figure out how I wanted things done. And then when I started to get into a consistent pattern of how I wanted things to get done, then it became clear, okay, this is the process I want to follow. I don't personally want to do that piece anymore. Let me find somebody that loves to do that piece so I don't have to do it anymore and they can love to do it and do it better than I did it. So, I mean, I think it's kind of an evolutionary thing, but I would be happy to talk to you further and hopefully give you a more specific, helpful response.
Thank you. One more question. You mentioned you use business website to get an idea of um, how to increase brand knowledge. What if the business doesn't have a website yet? Where should they start if they're a solopreneur and don't have money to pay someone to build it, maintain a complicated site?
Well, again, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I think that there are plenty of tools where you can build your own website. Because you need to kind of get something started. Maybe it's just a single page website, and it's kind of a brochure site, if you will, that kind of gets your company name out there, and you kind of choose your brand colors, the image you want to convey, that's going to be a focal point, of your business. So I think having a website is going to be a good first step for you to kind of crystallize what you're offering and something that you can share with others to help you to get clients in the door. Again, there may be more to it, but at the end of the day, you might, if you really constrain from a budget standpoint, you probably are going to have to do some of this stuff by yourself, and it is going to be a bit of the learn as you go. Or you may find that you can barter. And maybe there's somebody that can do a website for you and then you can do something for them and you're exchanging services. And that's a way to kind of use your network to move your business forward, even if you can't. I mean, if you're talking about a complex website for your business, then you're going to have to figure out how to fund that. But if a single landing page kind of website's not going to do the trick. But again, I'm happy to talk to you further, more specifically with you, if I can help you move forward. But that's without knowing more, that's kind of what I would have to offer.
We're 1 minute over, so if there's
Okay. Well, we will stop here in respect for everyone's time, but thank you so much. We had an amazing group of people join us today, so I appreciate everyone that took the time out today to join us. And you'll all get the recording, as well as anybody who registered will get the recording along with the worksheet that I talked about before. But I would be thrilled if any of you chose to scan to book time with me to talk further about your businesses. I'm all about empowering small businesses and helping them figure out the next best step for them. And if that includes us, great. And if you're not ready for us, that's okay too. My business is both a mission and a business for me. I really, I'm on a mission to help micro solopreneurs and small businesses to scale and have the impact that they want. So thank you so much for joining us today.